Disclaimer. What you are about to listen to is a random woman from the internet yap on and on about the most random shit happening in her life, while frequently changing topics mid-sentence. Does she ever have good advice? Occasionally. Is she funny? She likes to think so. So if you don't happen to have an autistic friend with a dash of depression and a scoopful of ADHD, congratulations, you are about to know what your FaceTime sessions would be like.
I have recorded this entire intro and I never hit record on my camera. Anyway, welcome back to the Messy Depressy podcast. My name is Jess. It's just Jess, nothing more, nothing less. I am just me, myself, and I already kind of talked about that for 5 minutes. I'm so sad. Anyway, I was going to talk about weddings today, specifically my wedding, but not my marriage. For those of you guys who are still creepily watching me from my ex life, go away. Like, nobody cares. Anyway, I was not going to talk about that. I was just going to simply tell women out there why they should not have a wedding, because it is quite literally a scam, and all it does is just create fights. Like, it's supposed to be the happiest day of your life, and all it does is just create fighting with people. But then I started to kind of get onto a topic of like what you can control, and I think that is because I started I introduced myself. I always say, hey, welcome back to the Messy Depressy podcast. My name is Jess, just Jess, nothing more, nothing less. And then I started going on and on. I'm just giving you the recap because I don't want to go on a whole nother 5 minutes. I'm very upset that I was an idiot and just forgot to hit record on my phone. Anyway, so you can't pick your labels in life. That's essentially what I was getting into. You kind of just can't pick who you are, and it kind of goes into the circle of controls that you have. But anyway, so it started off kind of as wedding talk, kind of talking about why you shouldn't focus on labels in your life and why reinventing yourself is stupid. Anyway, neither here nor there. I was fully prepared to talk about why you should not have a wedding in life too. I'm even wearing my famous Dump Him t-shirt, which is my favorite t-shirt, and it gets me hit on at bars a lot, believe it or not. I think that actually I start yelling about men at bars about how they're trash. But it gets a lot of guys to come up to me, ironically, but then all those guys end up being horrible guys typically too. I think it's because men have this desire to try to be better than other men. And so when I start talking about how a guy is trash, they're like, I'm so much better. When in reality, typically the only thing that they do is fuck up your life worse. Every guy that I think I have, actually, I just had an epiphany. Every single guy that I think I have met on this planet, one thing has been done to me, and they said, you know what? I'm not going to be like that guy. I'm going to be worse. I'm not kidding you. Every single guy that I've actually been in some kind of relationship with. Oh my God, I wish I could go into the details, but I really can't. But it truly actually somehow gets definitively worse. I had a more definitive process for this, and then I feel like I'm losing it. All because I didn't hit record on my camera. No, we're going to focus on what you can control. Actually, we can pull the wedding into it. 1 second, I'll be right back. I am bringing out a whiteboard for this, guys. I'm sorry it took so long to fucking get here. Today, we will be talking about the layers of control. Have you ever heard of them? No? All right, let's get started. This might be one you want to watch on YouTube. Or both. You know what? Listen to it on your podcast and then look at it again on YouTube. Because I don't have any followers and I would like some, so 1 sec while I draw 2 circles. So the inner circle is what we call the circle of control. As you can see, the glare is really bad. This is very low budget, if you can't tell. The inside circle is what we would call the circle of control. That is stuff that you can control yourself. Now, most people, I think, know this concept. Outside of that, there's a circle called the circle of things that you cannot control. I think people are very, very familiar with this concept that you can control things or you can't control things. This is not a new fucking concept, right? I bring to you between this, and if this is something you already know, great. I don't know, do you want a fucking cookie? I didn't know this until someone taught me it. Actually, probably about like a month ago, and ever since then I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. But in between those two circles, you have what is called the circle of influence, which I feel like does not get talked about nearly enough. Let me hold back up my whiteboard for a visual. So, I guess you really don't need to look at this because it's really not that deep. There's 3 circles. The inside circle, the most inside circle, is the circle of control. The outside circle outside of that is called the circle of influence. The circle outside of that is called the circle of things that you cannot control. These, my dears, are the level of controls that you have in your life. Now, going back to the wedding metaphor, the reason why I strongly suggest don't having a wedding, because it is solely not worth it, is there is so many things outside of this control that just make it so unworth it. Like, it drives so much unnecessary anxiety. And there's so many different, I don't think people realize like the different layers that comes with weddings. I fear that it's not even like the details, like the flowers, the food. So those things I would say, like all of those things, everything, basically, actually, I don't really think anything is within your control for a wedding. Nothing is in control except for the person that you're marrying, which hopefully it is somebody that you like, because that would be really awkward if you weren't. But you know what? At the same time, ladies, if like they're rich, get your bag. That's all I gotta say. But I would say everything is completely out of your control. I learned that the hard way. And we're going to stick with the wedding metaphor. It's way too early to relate this to life. Sticking with the wedding metaphor. There is so much in your life that you actually can't control. There's a lot of things with your wedding that you can influence. And this is where and this might be fucking common sense and it might just be stupid, which we've known that. I don't know. I am autistic. I'm a little slow. I shouldn't say that, but I can because I'm allowed to make jokes about it. But there's a lot of things I would say that like are in your influence, but they're still not within your control. But I do like having the circle of influence there because I think that is what allows you to kind of see where your relationships in life stand, or where different things that you can control maybe in life stand, because like you might be able to control something that influences that outside influence. Like, for example, picking your bridesmaids. That is something you can control, is picking those bridesmaids. What you cannot control is how those women are going to respond or react as bridesmaids. That, again, you influence it because you can control choosing the bridesmaids, and then it comes into like influencing their actions. But that within that circle of influence, you can kind of tell a lot about a person. And you can kind of tell a lot about a situation by being able to kind of control something to the point where it kind of moves into that circle of influence. And then if you're trying to influence something and they're still not treating you a certain way or treating you how you deserve to be treated, you get a lot of answers questioned about your life. And that happens when you're in a wedding. You learn a lot about the people in your life. So I'm just saying too, going back to the wedding metaphor, but also going back to, I guess, just wedding advice, if you are not absolutely 1000% certain that you have X amount of people in your life who would, not only just like be okay with being in your wedding or helping out with your wedding or being like pretending like they're excited about their wedding, if you don't have people that actively want to be involved, I would say, in your wedding, and like be there and be present, and like not even just be there and be present in a way like they feel like they have to out of obligation, you know that they will be there and like literally be dancing their ass off the entire time, even if they're faking the entire fucking time. It doesn't matter. You will never know any different because they are genuinely caring about you that much. If you don't know you have those people in your life, don't even bother having a wedding, because I'm just gonna tell you, it will only lead to heartbreak. Because you learn just so much about the people in your life. I was called a raging bitch for asking people to, I would say, do the bare minimum for me. Like, I wasn't even asking a lot of people. I really don't think I was a bridezilla. I asked girls to come on my bachelorette party, and I just said, do you have this weekend available? I was going to offer to pay their flights for them, or at least help them pay for their flights. I was going to be willing to pay the Airbnb. Like, and these girls were like, you're asking too much of me. I am so sorry that I just wanted people to be excited with me, and I was willing to, I don't want them to pay. I didn't want them to upfront their own money. I was willing to subsidize that just because I solely just wanted people to be there and be happy for me. God forbid. Oh my God, I'm so fucking sorry. I'm an animal. I'm a criminal. I'm criminal, guys. Apparently I'm just like a raging bitch. Oh my God, I asked people to wear neutral colors to my wedding, and I was called selfish by somebody who should not have been saying those words for me. Like, should have been next to me by my side the entire, I will not say the specific person because I actually didn't talk to this person for 3 years. It's getting better, but however come, I was called a selfish bitch for asking people to wear neutral colors to a wedding. I was told that I was being absolutely unbearable. I was being bridezilla, and I solely, out of people, there was 3 things that I asked of people. I asked them to show up on time. I asked them to be present while they were there and have fun. And I asked them to wear neutral colors. Guys, I fear that the world has came, not even the standards with men. See, and this is turning into like a whole, this is turning into a conversation about weddings. Actually, it's not even turning into like, we've gone outside of the circle of control. But I feel like not even like people say, oh, your standards for men has like fallen through the floor. I'm sorry, but your standards to just operate as a normal human being and be there for people that you say you quote love and care about are absolutely in hell. Like, you say that I should have better standards for men, but you're not even being a good friend. Like, you're not showing that you're being a good person in my life. Somebody that loves me, somebody who cares about me. So why would you care? Because like, it's funny that you say my standards of men are that low. You're kind of operating at that level. Isn't that funny? Isn't that ironic? People are just so easy and fast and quick to judge you and your relationships and your life that it's just hypocritical, because they are not even operating at the level that they say that they claim they quote want for you. Epiphany. My friends are like, Jess, it's embarrassing to keep going after this guy who treats you like this. Oh, then it's embarrassing being your friend. Okay, yeah, you're right. So then you're cut off too, because it's quite literally, it's actually embarrassing getting this level of treatment for something that I'm just genuinely trying to get excited about. And I'm so sorry that I guess asking people in my life to be around me and be excited. I should have known better. I have even been able to like really get friends in my life to want to celebrate my birthdays with me. That is something so unbelievably simple. And I feel like I haven't been able to get that. So why I thought a wedding would be good. Actually, no, I knew a wedding wasn't going to turn out good. I knew it wasn't going to turn out good for those reasons because I'm self-aware. And I just know that I've never really had that level of support in my life. Some people do. Some people have an amazing friend group and they will go to the ends of the earth for each other. And that is absolutely amazing for them. And I commend them for that. And I'm jealous, quite frankly. But I knew that I just didn't have that level of support in my life. And I just knew that it was going to be a wedding for me was going to be emotionally, or it was going to be physically taxing. It was going to be mentally draining, just having to plan everything. But I knew it was also going to be extremely emotionally draining. And I did not want it. I guess going back to the circle of control, we're kind of talking about both. I feel like this is actually a really good metaphor to explain everything. But going back to the circle of control, I knew that the only thing I could kind of control in that moment is to just not have a wedding. And I didn't want one. And it was the person that I was with who pushed me into having one. And it destroyed a lot of relationships in my life. I feel like some of the relationships we've kind of moved past that. Some of them, I feel like they just kind of swallowed it and didn't say anything. But things were said after the fact anyway, but it's still rude and hurtful, and it was just emotionally draining time to go through, just seeing people just in your life I'm not even saying everyone in my life needs to be excited about me. Like, I don't expect that at all. We invited 80 people. I did not think 80 people were going to be excited about this. I mean, I think 80 people would probably want to come. I do think we would have a good turnout, but I don't think those people would be, every single one there would be the most excited people to be there. But there was like a handful of people in my life that I claimed to be the closest people in my life. And want to know why? It's because if the shoes were turned around and they were in that position, I would be their biggest cheerleader. I would go to the ends of the earth for them. And I just knew in my gut and in my soul that I would never get that kind of treatment in return. So I wanted to take it upon my control. Again, that's within my control, is to just not have this. And I was pushed into something I didn't feel comfortable with, and it did ruin a lot of relationships in my life. Anyway, I think this is, you know what, the moral of this story, if I had to like kind of pull everything together, this has been, I don't even know if I'm going to end up posting this. Maybe I can like pull some shit out of this and make it comprehensible. But the moral of this story is, I think, just people in your life. And you have to, I think, trust your gut and your life with what you can control. Because beyond that, you can only control so much of your life. And then it kind of it bleeds into this circle of influence. And there's stuff in your life that you completely cannot control. Like the person who gets elected as president. Which, I mean, you kind of can. I mean, when we say we vote, but then there's the electoral college. Anyway, I try to just distance myself as like, that's something I can't control because I'm just a tiny human being on this planet. And there's billions of other people voting, so it's going to be what it's going to be. I can only do what I can do. But there's so much when it comes to like people in your life specifically, and who you have in your life and how they react to things and how much they are in your life. There's so much that you can control to a point until it bleeds into like this circle of influence. And I feel like that outside that middle circle, the circle of influence, is where people try to bring that back within their control, but they can't, because you can't control people. But like you can influence them though. So that's why they're not in the circle outside. They're not outside of your control. They're not in the circle of the outside of your control, but they're not inside of your control. They're more kind of in that middle space of like the circle of influence. I don't know if this is making a lot of sense. But I think that it is within that circle, because I do feel like it is a very fine, like the lines between the circles I feel like are very small. I think that is where the most emotional hurt in your life comes from, because you can control the friends that you have in your life, who you decide to keep in your life and who you don't. And you can kind of try to influence those friendships. You can reach out more. You can plan activities to do with them. You can kind of influence, try to, as much how much you see them, how close you are. Again, you kind of can't control it completely, but it's not completely outside of your control either. You can kind of try to influence it. You can try to build relationships with these people. But what you can't control, though, is how they react. And that is why they're kind of sitting within this thing of influence. But because you feel like you have some control and you have some influence in them, like you can control how often you reach out to them, which can kind of influence like your relationship with them. But how they react or how they're going to respond is completely outside of your control. But because you have some grasp, I think, on what you can control and like lead to influence in your relationship with them, I feel like always hope for better outcomes with people. And unfortunately, that just does not always happen. So going back to what you can control, the only thing that you can control is the way you react to it. Which unfortunately, though, when you think that you are putting in effort into a relationship and it's going well and it's growing and you think you're really genuinely trying to build up this relationship and you're trying to influence it in a positive way, you're trying to create genuine human connections with people, and you're putting in the work, because the work is what you control. You're putting in the work and you're controlling the work that you put into it. And when people just come around and disappoint you, I think that is when things are worse and the emotions hit worse, rather than it being completely outside of your control. I don't know if any of that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I feel like that is why interpersonal friendships, especially ones that can get tested by being in different scenarios or just going through this crazy thing that we fucking call life, because it is truly, life is crazy, life is wild. Why God decided to do this to us and not just bring us straight to heaven mind boggles me, actually, because if he wanted like all of his children to just be happy, I feel like he should just bring us all straight to heaven, but he puts us down here first. And I know that there's a reason. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is just like a passing point, but I didn't mean to turn this religious talk, but that's just what I personally believe in, if you believe in it or not. But neither here nor there completely. But life is crazy, and life tests you, and it tests your relationships. And I think that is why relationships hit harder, because they're not completely outside of your control. The way that people react are, but the relationships themselves in general are kind of sitting within this circle of influence for you. And that it's harder when you try to get something and it just doesn't seem to work out in your favor. Yeah. Oh my God. I don't know where this episode was starting, and I had absolutely no idea what the direction it was going to go into, but it got to somewhere, I feel like. And I don't have any advice for you. I think it's more like, I also realized while talking, like, it's kind of crazy. It's just like, I think it makes you more aware of your relationships. I don't know what advice to give you out of that. Like, I'm not here to give advice. I'm kind of just here to have conversations, mainly with myself, because it is just me talking to my fucking phone. But it's kind of just like crazy and eye-opening to see, just like, I think that makes sense, like why some things, and especially some relationships, because the more the longer the relationship goes on too, and the more effort that you control your effort, the more effort you put into it to try to influence this relationship, and yet they still act a certain way towards you. It just cuts deeper. And this is not a new concept, I don't think so, but I don't know. I feel like nothing. See, that's the thing with podcasts is like I expect, or I think like I can't record something because I need to have completely original thoughts. But I don't think anything in life is really completely original thoughts. It's just people finding a different way to say it. And I think every single person on this planet will have a different way of interpreting something in your life. And it might not resonate with another person, but it may resonate with another people. And I could probably have 10 people have told me the same thing before this given moment, but it wasn't until I sat down kind of with my microphone and kind of talked through it that it kind of made sense in my brain to me. So nothing in life is a waste of time. And I'm completely going off topic now, but anyway, it's just, I think it puts a lot of things into perspective when you start to think about things differently. Anyway, I have been talking for 36 minutes. I don't know if any of this made sense. I hope that it did. In the end, relationships are weird, relationships are crazy, and they hurt. And it sucks how fragile they are, because they really are. I don't think a lot of people realize that, because they build really strong foundations with some people, but they really are. And I feel like no matter how strong the foundation is that you build, they can still I'm just saying life can happen. Life can happen, and you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen next week. You don't know what's going to happen in a month. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 minutes. I don't know. I'm going to go get coffee, though. I do know that, but something could happen that could steer me out on the way there. It's like the burnt toast theory. You can have plans for the day, and they can be completely derailed. You can think you're going in one direction in life and be completely derailed. You can think that you're building something with somebody, or you could be friends with somebody for 50 years, and something can happen in their life where things change, and it's just kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to think about, especially like these level of control. I feel like they're so simple. It's such a simple of concept, but it's when you really start thinking about it. And this is like everything in life is trying to like be black and white. And I feel like a lot of people on the internet tell you that you either can control something or you can't. And it's like as simple as that. But it's really not actually when you come down to it, because there's a lot of things in life that you can actually kind of influence, and you can't completely control it, but you can kind of try to influence it. And it's those things that I think we put the effort into. And like when they blow up, they kind of hurt worse than almost if you just can't control it in the first place. So everything in life is shades of gray. Oh my God, not like 50 Shades of Grey. No, we're not getting into that. Anyway, there's nothing simple in life. That's all I gotta say. There's no one right way to live life. There's no one right way to think about things. Everything, the more and more I think about life, I was a philosophy major at one point, if you can't tell. The more and more you think about the meaning of life, or how life is, or how things can be, even just subjects in life, how they can be black and white. They're really not when you come down to it. And there's so many different layers and levels and in betweens, and everything in life I feel like is a dotted line that you can easily cross in between and out of. And life is crazy. This is kind of weird. Earth is a wild place to live. But anyway, okay, I've officially been talking for 39 minutes, and I don't even know if any of this made sense. So I'm officially saying goodbye for the day. I love you all. If you've listened to this point, you're amazing. I owe you my life savings. I owe you my dog. I owe you every single piece of furniture that I own. And I will talk to you all next week. Bye.